Here are 10 money mistakes that our brain makes, which we need to be aware of, and most importantly, tame for us to be able to build wealth. That is what we're going to be talking about in this video. You are all much welcome to my channel. My name is Afagza Sifuna. By the way, in case you are new here, down there is a button called subscribe. Subscribe for you to be able to join the family because I'm bringing you amazing finance videos each and every day. And while you still at it, drop a like on this video. And if you believe the brain can actually send you a signal which is off, which you need to be aware of and tame for you to become rich, also comment down below which signal has your brain ever sent you which did derail you. And with that said, let's jump right in. The very first mistake is the desire for instant gratification. Basically put, as human beings desire to get instant gratification. Of course, why should we wait to obtain satisfaction? Why should we wait to obtain applause from people? You want it immediately. And that is a very bad signal which the brain typically sends. And that can really derail your money. And I'm saying so because the desire for instant gratification is what make people out there go and do purchases which they don't need to do actually. Because their brain is telling them, you need to purchase this thing at this particular point in time. They desire that instant gratification to be satisfied instantly. But then again, we all appreciate human appetites are insatiable. Case in point, maybe you are craving a given meal. Fair enough. As soon as you buy that particular meal, you're gonna eat it. You'll be satisfied. You'll say the meal is good. But then again, barely a few hours later, you're gonna again desire to have the same meal. That is so because the human appetites are insatiable. And if you are pursuing instant gratification, you are most likely going to get in trouble. Reason being, you'll be using your entire money or most part of your money to do purchases which you don't really need, just because your brain is telling them, I want this thing right now, and I want it as soon as this second. That is one of the flaws which our brain has that sends us a signal which most people out there follow, and they end up spending money in ways they shouldn't be spending in the first place. Okay? And then guys, the second signal which our brain sends, which sometimes does confuse us big time, is the signal of us having short-term thinking instead of long-term thinking. What do I mean? By design, the human brain is wired to address those short-term things, basically the urgent things. But then again, in an equation of anything, there is urgent and importance. Sometimes the thing which is extremely important might not be urgent, but then again, in maybe 1 month's time, 2 months' time, 1 year's time, is going to become extremely important and also very urgent because time will have passed. But then the human brain is wired to focus on addressing the short-term things in case you have long-term priorities which you need to focus on. And by the way, on matters money, there are. Because we need to be focusing on investing for the long term, not just instant short-term gratification. That is why we need to also wire our brains to embrace long-term thinking, long-term decision-making, long-term problem-solving, as opposed to just focusing on the short-term aspects and leave us in a state which is not very good. Because for you to build any solid systems, you need to be thinking long-term, you need to be having strategies which are multi-month or multi-year, not just living by the day because your brain tells you that is the safest thing to do. Of course, by default, it's going to tell you that. But as human beings, we need to focus on better way of problem solving and thinking for the long term. Okay? And then the third signal, which the brain sends and actually confuses people big time, is something called herd mentality, whereby most people out there do follow other people blindly. They do make decisions blindly because people are making decisions. How many times have you, for example, heard even someone say, share of a given company or stock of a given company is good to purchase? If you ask them why, they're going to tell you someone may be updated on TikTok. That is their only rationale. Someone updated on TikTok saying it is amazing. So they want to make an investment decision based on naysay instead of doing fundamental analysis and understanding the company health with regards to profits, dividend payout, dividend ratios, etc. They make a decision because there is maybe a very huge volume on that decision or that idea, or even someone who they know said something. And by the way, if you don't know, that thing around hard mentality is even what drives news media houses out there. How many times have you seen, for example, publications jump and say, this share is going to double in the next 1 month, okay? This particular crypto is going to fall by next week, okay? This particular thing is going to increase immediately. All those are sensational, okay? But then again, that sensationalism is not what is going to assist you. We need to have concrete decision making based on fundamentals as opposed to just following crowds because someone is saying. And then the fourth signal which our brain uses to confuse us, which we need to be aware of, is we typically underestimate small expenses. How many times have you spent money which you didn't plan because it is pocket change? Okay. You could be out there, for example, walking, you have 200 shillings. You won't think much about spending that particular 200 shillings, but you're going to think much about spending 10K because that 200 shilling doesn't seem like money to you. That is a very wrong signal from the brain. Reason being, that 200 shilling is a percentage of 10K, is a percentage of 1 million, is a percentage of whichever amount of money. So if your brain is sending you a signal saying that is negligible, at the end of the day, that negligibleness is going to taint your budget. And we have tendency of underestimating small expenses. I want, for example, to go somewhere. I only have bus fare for my tattoo, which is 100 shilling. The Uber comes to 700 shilling. I'm going to spend on Uber. Reason being, it is what it is, just a small amount of money. Yes, that is something which our brain is very notorious for. It sends us signals whereby we underestimate small expenses. Yet in reality, those small expenses are the ones which are going to dent our journey towards financial freedom. Because think about it this way. Today, you can spend 200 shillings because it is not a lot of money. What if you do exactly that 50 times in a month, right? Because you could make that decision multiple times a day. Assuming you do that exactly 50 times in a month, what it's gonna mean is that you'll end up spending 10K shillings or even more than that you hadn't budgeted. Now look at, for example, assuming your salary is 50K Kenya shillings, what does it mean? It's gonna basically mean you might end up even spending 50% of, not 50%, 20% of your salary just like that. Because the signal your brain is sending you is this is not an issue, which actually is a very big issue. Okay? And then the fifth signal which our brain sends us, which can confuse us, is that we are overly optimistic. Guys, we are typically overly optimistic. That is a good thing because our brain is wired to protect us from imminent danger. As part of protection, it's not just the physical protection, also psychological protection. And that is why, if, for example, today there is an overspend which you're supposed to do, you know very well this is going to attain your budget maybe for the next 3 months. But nevertheless, we're going to do that particular purchase, whether we need it or not, do overspend, and then our brain is going to tell us we will figure it out. If you ask yourself or call yourself to a meeting and ask yourself genuinely, are you going to figure it out? The answer is most likely no, because chances are all your estimated inflows of cash or income, you know them. So where are you going to harvest this money from? That is your brain telling you, being overly optimistic, that you're going to be able to solve a challenge which you are creating now, and yet in reality, you won't be able to solve it. So be aware of that, and that is going to assist you make a rational decision instead of just spending for the moment or today and forgetting about tomorrow. Okay? And then the sixth signal which our brain sends us, which sometimes can cause financial turmoil, is we let emotions drive spending. How many times have you bought something because you feel it is good? And even so, sometimes it gets very interesting. You feel like you deserve. If you ask yourself, why do you deserve it? Even some people out there can tell you it's because I'm a good person, okay? It's because it looks nice. So we end up making decisions based on our emotions instead of focusing on what we've planned, focusing on our budget, focusing on what we truly need. There is a difference between what you need and what you want. Wants are optional, needs are necessities. That is why sometimes you see even in the market there's lots of volatility because markets are driven by emotions. Most people wake up and decide because they feel like something, and they make a decision based on feelings. That is fair enough, and I fully recognize that is something which runs our world on a daily basis. But that aside, we need to be cognizant, most when it comes to making those critical financial decisions, to be objective as opposed to letting our emotions dictate spending, because emotions are going to ruin your finances. Okay? And then the seventh thing or mistake our brain does is avoid financial knowledge. Guys, this is very, very disastrous. And I'm saying so because out here, you can only be able to make money to the extent of what you know. Simply put, that is it. You can't make money based on what you don't know. And that is why financial literacy, pursuit of financial knowledge, should be something which we prioritize. But then again, sometimes our brain is in that state where it's comfortable. Any foreign thing you want to bring in, it repels. Okay? And being in a position whereby we want to avoid financial knowledge because maybe the numbers are complex. I don't understand the concept. I tried to read maybe about dividend yield. I got confused. So I'm taking a back seat not to understand. That is the safest thing for my brain. Fair enough. That is the safest thing for your brain. You are right to say that. But then again, that also is making you and confine you to not investing because you lack knowledge. The only way of you making wise decisions financially and decisions which are amazing is by you embracing knowledge. Start small, start with small concepts, and then continue reading. Even dedicated as a simple thing, even 15 minutes per week to you to internalize this knowledge. And then you'll be in a much better standing compared to someone who is not reading at all. Okay? And then the eighth signal or mistake our brain makes is to avoid or ignore opportunity cost. What is opportunity cost? Opportunity cost is that thing which you forgo to do something else. As to whether you are forgoing it correctly or not, that is a decision to be analyzed. Case in point, right now I'm here recording this video. Okay? Maybe I'd be out there enjoying myself because it is at night. I'd be out there maybe in a club dancing. Okay? Maybe I'd be sleeping. Me sitting here recording this video, the opportunity cost of me doing this is forgoing sleep. Okay? Is me forgoing going out there to enjoy myself. So the brain typically focuses on what you're doing and ignore opportunity cost. Yet sometimes opportunity cost analysis can assist us know if something is ideal for us or not, because it can assist us shape our decision or even rectify in real time, as opposed to us going all in, making bad financial decisions which you're going to regret later on. So always look at opportunity costs before you continue doing something so much which is going to hurt you. Okay? And then the ninth mistake which our brain does, and most people are culprits of this, is that we rely on memory instead of building systems. How many times have you, for example, absorbed a given information and like, I'm going to remember? And then even a week later, you ask yourself, what just happened? Case in point, you can even go, for example, to a supermarket to do shopping. You end up spending or even swiping 10K Kenya shillings. You throw that particular receipt because you tell yourself, I'm going to remember. Okay? And you'll forget. You go out there, for example, discuss a given business deal, and you forget the details, therefore shortchanging yourself. That is something which our brain plays a trick on us. It encourages us to rely on memory instead of building systems. And then the truth is that it's only so much you can remember. Yes, out here we all aim or even try to say we have the best of brains. Fair enough. We can remember concepts, fair enough. But then again, we don't remember concepts in isolation. We are having all this motion happening daily. Lots of info coming to our brain, going out. We're trying to remember many things simultaneously. Information, most of critical information, can be lost in details. That is why you need to build systems. If, for example, you are running a shop, don't just remember your daily profit. Note it down. There are very simple templates out there. Write it down explicitly word for word, as opposed to you assuming you're gonna remember. Okay? because you're assuming you're going to remember is going to be the recipe of you failing. And then the 10th biggest mistake which our brain plays a trick on us on is failing to plan for emergencies. How many times have you gotten yourself in a given emergency situation and you didn't have money, yet you knew very well, even maybe 2 days before, you did spend 20K in a frivolous way. You did go ahead and purchase furniture worth 70,000 Kenya shillings, which you didn't need, which you did not need at a particular point in time, but you purchased either way, yet you forgot to plan for an emergency. Guys, in the quest to build wealth, you having an emergency fund is the irreducible minimum. Ensure you build an emergency fund. Start small. Build an emergency fund for your multiple months of survival, whether it's 3 months or 6 months. Build a fund because you're not planning for emergencies. Be rest assured, emergencies out here don't pick on a specific person. Emergencies do crop in our lives. We don't decide. Case in point, your tire bursts, okay? Case in point, someone you know very well needs to pay a medical bill in hospital, okay? Case in point, even maybe you are shoeless or even your soul comes out of your shoe. There are so many emergencies that can happen out there and you can't predict. So it is good to plan for emergencies because the brain tricks us to think emergencies are very far off. They can't happen to us. There are things which will figure when they happen and so forth. Don't wait to figure later on. Plan well in advance. What do you think about these 10 different mistakes which our brain sends us confused signals and disrupt our quest to building wealth, disrupt our quest to be financially stable? Has any of these things I mentioned ever affected you? If they have, continue commenting down below. Let's discuss there. Thanks a lot, guys. I look forward to share with you other amazing videos next time. Cheers and you all take care.